Last Monday, and Terry arrives at Hertford in Cheshire to start work on the railways. He hasn't brought his lookout certificate, but he has an ID card provided by an employment agency in Manchester, which has failed to check any references.
Can I have a look at your lookout
yeah.
certificate and everything you've got?
Right, well, there's a bit of a problem because the guy, I got it for the agency, Prime Time, right?
Yeah.
And he took my stuff out, and I've only just realised that to photocopy, and he didn't give it back to me. But as you can see, he's passed me as lookout and PTS, and that's the one, that's an old
It didn't
one.
matter that Terry hadn't got his
didn't
lookout
photocopy that,
certificate.
he
He was
photocopied the
hired.
current one.
Right. That's where we are.
Thanks.
That's
Right.
Hertford.
Yeah.
It's 110 miles an hour on the fast lines.
Right.
And 75 on the slow.
Okay.
Sighting is
It was time for Terry
Yeah,
to come
yeah.
clean.
Could I have a private word with you, just over here?
Yeah,
Do you mind? Kevin, I'm not a lookout.
You're not a lookout?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not a lookout. I'm from. I've come down here to prove a point about how easy it is to get work on the track without the proper documentation.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So I'm not going to go on the track because I'd be endangering everyone's life.
Yeah. Well, what's the game? What's happening?
Well, I'm from Channel 4, and we're doing a programme about safety on the
Thank you very much.
on the railway.
Prime-time recruitment in Manchester refused to comment. So he asked BR's former chairman what he thought of this episode.
That obviously is wrong, and that is bad. And certainly, I'm sure Railtrack, when they learn of that, will be deeply concerned. And that this will be a subject for a major investigation as to how this could happen, and a re-examination of what the processes are to make sure that it can't happen. And that must be a major issue. That is a major problem, and nobody's going to duck that.
Railtrack declined to be interviewed on this programme, but in a statement they said that though their safety record was a good one,
incidents like this do pose a threat to this record, and we treat this matter very seriously. We have placed a hold on the future use of the agency pending an investigation. All managers have been reminded of the need to check documentation thoroughly.
The danger of contractors is that somebody comes in to dig a hole beside the railway and he doesn't really know which way the trains go, or if they go, or what trains there are, may not even know that what he's doing is dangerous, and therefore you need to have a lot of supervision and a lot of management of these contractors. And I think many of us are concerned as to whether Railtrack has yet realised how difficult that task is.
only 2 months ago the Health and Safety Executive, which oversees railway safety, issued a critical report about how Railtrack manages safety.
We find many examples of contractors not meeting railway group standards.
That is, the standards essential for safety on the railway. Railtrack should take
Urgent steps to strengthen its systems and the way they are applied. There is no room at all for complacency.
Creating a whole bunch of new engineering companies and putting them into operation is a huge challenge. And to do that in a very short time space, which is dictated as much by politics as it is by organisational requirements, is an issue. And I think that Railtrack's task is Herculean. It's very difficult.
just as challenging as managing safety is managing the system. We'd set out on our journey of discovery armed with Railtrack's own Pathfinder prospectus. It sets out what's on offer to investors. In the document, Railtrack say they intend to spend nearly £1.4 billion over 10 years on one part of the system, bridges, tunnels and other route structures. But a confidential report we've obtained casts a very different light on this figure and Railtrack's potential liabilities. The report was commissioned in February last year by Railtrack from a firm of civil engineering consultants in York in preparation for the flotation. It puts the cost of maintaining and renewing these structures at over £10 billion across 10 years, around 8 times the official figures. We asked Railtrack about the York report.
Railtrack has undertaken a thorough review of the expenditure estimated to be required to maintain and renew its network to a standard consistent with its operating and safety obligations.
Railtrack didn't answer our questions about the report's findings. We asked former BR Chief Civil Engineer Brian Davis for his opinion.
Well, I know the people who wrote it. They used to work for me. And they're real professionals, and I would say that that is a very valid document.
Given the Railtrack figure and the figure in the report they themselves commissioned, which figure would you believe?
The commissioned report.
Do you think the authors of this report were just setting too high a standard?
No, I think they did what they were asked to do.
But it's an extraordinarily high figure, isn't it?
I don't think it's an extraordinary high figure. What is extraordinary is the difference between their figure and Railtrack's figure, a multiplier of rounded 10.
I would have thought it should appear in the prospectus. In fact, the information in the prospectus is very sparse. Just bare global figures are given for the money that they expect to spend on the track, on the bridges, on signalling and so on.
Many of Railtrack's bridges are over 100 years old. So how many need urgent maintenance? Our investigations took us to Scotland to find out more about Railtrack's inheritance and a possible backlog of work. We met a former senior civil engineer for British Rail who was in charge of 900 miles of the railway network. Mike Chorley was responsible for every bridge north of the Forth in Scotland. We took him back to his old stamping ground.
There must be an increasing commitment to the examination, repair and maintenance of bridges, because we're at the top of the slippery slope, and as every year goes by we're going further down that slippery slope.
We travelled north.
No bridge will fall down in the next 2 or 3 years. But eventually we're storing up a workload for the future, a vast workload, unless we have prudent planned maintenance.
First stop, the Tay Bridge.
This, as you can see, is a very big bridge, and it's very old, so it does take about £500,000 a year to maintain. I understand that Railtrack are considering a maintenance holiday, which basically means you cut back and you don't maintain the bridge for a year, maybe 2 years, and then come back again. The effect of a maintenance holiday is, when you're not carrying out maintenance, that when you come back, the bridge is in worse condition, and you might have saved £500,000 on the first year, but by the time you come back, the work's going to cost £2 million, because the bridge is deteriorated to that state. You've got to carry out extensive repairs instead of minor repairs and repainting.
We asked Railtrack about this bridge. This Tuesday, they told us they planned to spend £1.1 million on the maintenance of the Tay in this financial year. From the Tay to a lesser landmark, the Merry Kirk Bridge.
This bridge is in poor condition. It's had very little money spent on it in the last 30 years. Certainly none on the structural safety of the bridge. You can see for yourself the rust marks over the bridge, and there are some holes in the steelwork in various places. This bridge certainly won't get better. It'll deteriorate unless money is spent on it in the next 2 or 3 years. It needs tens of thousands spent on it in the reasonably near future, in the next couple of years, or it'll cost hundreds of thousands to put it right, or even millions for a completely new bridge if it is neglected for 6 or 7 years.
Railtrack told us
The bridge is structurally sound. There are some masonry repairs to be finished, as well as a repainting programme planned in the next few years.
they didn't mention the holes in the steelwork.
I think that Railtrack have inherited many similar bridges throughout British Rail with a similar age profile and need to catch up on maintenance arrears.
Our confidential report suggests there are no reliable figures on just how many bridges Railtrack have inherited that need work. Indeed, last year's York report suggests that
Bridge assessment studies and reports are known to be carrying a large backlog, in the order of 70% of structures not having been assessed in the previous 18 years.
the authors of the leaked report make it clear that they undertook the survey to provide information on Railtrack's financial liabilities in the lead-up to privatisation. Yet there's no mention of the York report in the Railtrack prospectus.